When we were together at HomeVault, we talked a lot about our mission and our vision and our core values. Why do you think that was so important that we put those together?
The biggest factor of those things is to set the direction of the company, to align the people in the company together. So why do we have core values? The core values in a business is what you want to align on a value standpoint. Why do we have a mission vision statement? Well, you don't go hunting and not know where you're shooting. You got to know where you're aiming the business, the direction the company is going. And that is the point of the mission and vision statements.
Welcome, entrepreneurs, to Pay or Quit,
Where we reveal the gritty truth behind business success.
People see the glory, but not the struggle it takes to get there.
We're here to share the real stories of entrepreneurs navigating the tough intersection of business and relationships. I'm Tony Klein.
And I'm Shawn Johnson, and together we'll guide you through the real challenges faced as serial entrepreneurs.
Join us for the untold stories behind the scenes.
Buckle in, it might get messy.
And we're back. Now, we didn't get to 3 topics from our previous recording, so now we've got, and we did not forget, we're going to do them now. Why is it so hard to run a property management business? The 7 critical components of a championship team and leadership one-on-one, a specific one-on-one that I'm going to break down a little bit that I just recently had. So kick us off, Tony.
Nice. All right. So let me start out with talking about the 7 critical components of a championship team, specifically in property management. It applies to every championship team in every business, but I want to start off by just framing it sort of, yes, we're talking to property management entrepreneurs, but this applies in every aspect of life. So from my standpoint, before you can do anything, you really have to have the game plan. So we've got the game plan. Then we've got number 2 is the rule book. And we've got the playbook. We've got our positions, our players, our equipment, and then our scoreboards. So those are the 7 critical components. So let's break them down. Let's start talking about it. So Shawn, I know that when we were together at HomeVault, we talked a lot about our mission and our vision and our core values. Why do you think that was so important that we put those together?
To me, the biggest factor of those things is to set the direction of the company and to align the people in the company together. So why do we have core values? Well, I want, we all have foundational values, if you will, in our lives. It's integrity and, honesty and those types of things. But the core values, in my opinion, in a business is what you want to align on a value standpoint. What are the 4, 5, 10, I would keep it less than 7 personally, values that you want to identify and that you are today that we align together. So we hire on these core values. We give discipline off of these core values. We give praise or raises off of these core values. And then we also fire off of these core values. I think it's so critical to do that. Why do we have a mission vision statement? Well, you don't go hunting and not know where you're shooting. You got to know where you're aiming the business, the direction the company is going. And that is the point of the mission and vision statements.
Yeah, I think to break those down, I know EOS kind of calls it the core purpose or something like that, but I like to break them down. I like to have them separate. I like the mission. The mission is, what are we trying to accomplish? What are we doing in this business? Who do we serve? And then the vision is, and we talked about this in the last episode, but the vision is where we're going, what we're trying to accomplish, and it's all about the future. And so we've got our core values, and then the mission, the people that we serve, what we're trying to accomplish, and then the vision is about the future. And so when you combine all 3 of those things, it creates a filter, and it creates a filter for good and not for evil. What's the word? But it filters things out. It filters the good stuff in, and it filters the things that aren't a good fit out, because you can really start to see when somebody doesn't align with the core values of the company, or they don't buy into the vision. And so constantly communicating those things and providing a filter for the team to make decisions through really helps, because we're going to come across situations where we're going to expect people to make decisions, and they need to be in the best interest of or aligned with the best interests of the company and the people that the company serves. And without those three things on the game plan, you can't really expect them to make judgments in the way that you would want them to make, because you haven't provided them with that foundation. So I think the game plan is sort of the foundation of the company.
Yeah, I love that because like it not only helps with like performance reviews, but it actually helps the leader, the superior, to actually evaluate how are we aligned as a company, or how is this person aligned with our mission, our objectives, even in a singular department, to what the company is trying to achieve here. Because it gives them the boundaries of who we want as a team player, right? A real
Yeah.
world experience. We One of our HomeVault core values was own it, and I remember having an evaluation of an employee that was just making excuses. Right? It was like it's that person's fault. It's that person's fault. And if you've ever read the book Extreme Ownership, it's like it's all of it. It's on me. The business owner, it's on me, and then it's on as a leader, it's on me. This is my fault because I'm the one that hired that person, right? And
Yeah.
I'm the one that
Yeah.
trained that person, and so on and so forth. It just gives practicality to the situation.
So then once you have that foundation in place, now we start looking at the rule book. And the rule book are the policies that we operate the company by. I really love this analogy because if we were in the NFL, we would play by the rules established by the NFL. We would have to play the game in accordance with their rules. But what's great about it is, as a business owner, we get to create our own rules because we get to determine what success looks like. We get to determine what it looks like to win in the game of property management. And so if we set up the rules the way that we want to win, now we can communicate that to the team. So we've got the game plan and the rule book of what we want to achieve. And the rule books are our policies. And those, at this point, I've got over 600 policies where you you go through. If you're working with me, I have a program where you go through and you address each one of these policies and you say what your policy is. And I've got a way to make that simple. But the reason we do that is, as a business owner, of course we know how to do stuff. We've been doing it for 8, 10 years or whatever. But our team, we bring in a new team member, they don't know the rules to play the game by, right? And so we can't expect them to play by that. So we've given them the game plan, the filter, then we give them the rule book. Now that we've established our policies, here's where it's sort of this mind trick. We bring in the playbook, right? So the rule book again is how we play the rules of how we win, but the playbook are our processes, what gets executed. So, for example, if we were playing football, the offense lines up, the defense lines up. Each one of them has a play that they're going to run, and the play has a name, and that's the name of the process. Same thing in property management. When a tenant's going to move out, you have a tenant move out process, and so that's just the name. Then underneath the process, you have the procedures or the individual steps that each person on the line, each one of the backs, they all have their own individual responsibilities, but nothing happens until there's a trigger. And the trigger is the snapping of the ball. So I'm sure you can kind of relate to where we're building the story here so far.
I totally can relate. There's on two factors. Obviously, HomeVault went through this process, and it took us really, I would say, a second iteration to hit the mark. The first
Yeah.
iteration, we missed the mark. The second one, I felt like we were really good, on track at least. But the other way I can relate to this is that when I was at Pure, we were on that same path, and there was actually a debate between what policies and procedures, playbooks, and so on should be and shouldn't be. And that's natural, right? When you're going through the process. But yeah, I've been here, I've done that.
Yeah.
It's a tough
Yeah.
one.
Well, I think the first time that we had some challenges at HomeVault the first time is because we actually we delegated putting together the processes to some people on the team. And as the business owners, we skipped over setting the policies.
Yep.
We allowed the people on the team to jump right to the processes. And processes are built on policies. The process only exists to adhere or uphold our policy. That's it.
Yep.
And so if you look at that, the genius part of this is once you as the business owner do the hard work of coming up with your policies, now you engage the rest of the team to say, as we go through the life cycle of property management, in this particular phase, these are the triggers that happen. This is the ball gets snapped. This is the trigger. And this is the name of the process we're going to run. Now you go and say what steps you currently take or what we should be taking. And they help build out the process and procedure. Now, of course, you're going to review it and make sure that it's really hitting the goals based on the rules and the game plan. But it shifts the work from you creating a system and shoving it down to the front line, and it takes that what we talked about last time, which we allow the team to have buy-in, and they help create it. And if they help create it, they're going to support it much more than if you just work on something for 6 months and then say, congratulations, I built you a tool, I hope you love it, because they're not going to.
Yeah, and you hit on something I think is good to highlight. We did process first and then policy at HomeVault, but we in a vacuum the decision was made to have somebody develop our processes, and the default for that person was to adhere to the policies of her previous company, which then became the policies of HomeVault. And we were like, "Whoa, why is that a policy? We didn't decide on that." And they seemed like very outlandish. There was a few of those policies were like, "Holy cow! How did this even? Who even
Yeah.
thought of?" You know what I mean? It was very dramatic. I
Yeah.
remember, but I would
So
just say if you leave it to its own vices, something's going to fill in the gap and create a policy you don't want.
right. Yeah. And so that's why it's so important that the business owner creates the policies, the rules of the game, how we win. And we, in that first go around, we actually allowed somebody else to create the process, which automatically, as you just said, if you don't have a policy already, the process creates a policy, and you can have 4 or 5 different policies in different parts of different processes that really it should be one policy. It should be one thing that all points to the same thing, but yet because it's just kind of scattered throughout the process, we're saying things that are inconsistent because it depends on where it's at in the process. So anyway, really focusing on the rule book first, then the playbook. Once you have all of that lined out, you've got your game plan, your rule book, the playbook. Okay, well now we need to know the positions, right? We're designing our own game. We need to know the positions that we need. And so the positions are the roles and responsibilities. So it's not necessarily the person, it's I need a left guard, a right guard, a left tackle, a right tackle. I need a quarterback, a running back, a receiver. I don't know who those are going to be yet, but each one of those things plays a certain role on the field.
What comes first, Tony? If this you got an employee and you know he's good at X, Y, and Z, but he's not good at A, B, and C. Do you fit them into the role that is only X because they're good at X? Or you know what I mean? Do you see where I'm going with this? Like, is it more
Yeah.
important to uh, hire for the position than it is to mold somebody into a position?
Yeah, so these are in order of importance, in order that you actually go about doing these. And so I heard an example one time, McDonald's doesn't hire somebody and then ask them how long they want to cook the fries for. They have a system. They have roles. Each person at McDonald's plays a certain role, and you can make fun of the quality of the burgers, quality of the food, quality of the people. You can do that all you want, but when you look at it, they are very, very good at running systems. Now, each location might have their own hiccups on execution, but they know the number of people they need in what roles, and they focus more on the role, and then they look for people who are qualified and that can deliver on that role. So now take McDonald's out of the picture and put Nordstrom in the picture. Same exact thing. Nordstrom doesn't hire somebody from another company and go, well, we kind of have things working, but maybe you want to change some things up. No, they have a system that they bring people into. They have roles that are played on the field, and then they find people that fit those roles. And it's really hard when you're making this transition, when you're being intentional about implementing these. We've all had an employee that they helped us out when we were growing. They had a big impact on the company, but we've kind of outgrown them,
Mhm.
or we've at least outgrown the position that they're in. And that's where it gets really difficult. And that's why I talk not about building a team, but about building a championship team. If you're building a championship team and you've got 5 players on the team, it's not fair to the other champions on your team to keep one that's not performing, whether it's their fault or not. People get traded off of teams all the time that are good quality players. They're just a bad fit for the team.
Yeah, I don't know how many times I've heard one of my team members say, "What took you so long to fire that person?" And it's really a slap in the face. The reality is like, why didn't you say something? I didn't realize they were a problem. But then when the person is gone, you've actually fired this person, and like the morale of the entire office goes back up because this cancer is gone. Like, hey
Yeah.
man, before we get to this stage, can you tell me so I can address it? Because I don't want this for anybody.
Okay. So I'm going to solve that for you in step 7. The
Okay.
7th of the 7 critical components. So okay, so we've figured out our positions now. We've just also talked about the players. Once we have the positions that we need, we know the roles and responsibilities. Now we start looking for the A players to fill those roles. And like you said, sometimes you have a cancer on the team, but sometimes you just have somebody that just is not the right person for the role, and you don't have another role for them.
Mhm.
Sometimes you got to make that hard decision. If you really buy into building a championship team and performing at the very best, sometimes you got to make changes with good people. And you can make it easier for them and help them find another job or something like that. But you just can't have somebody that's not performing at the way you need to perform for them to be a champion. So now that you have all those things in place, you've got the first 5. Now we start looking at the equipment for the team. So football, helmet, shoulder pads, all of that. But in business, you have technology, tools, and resources. And I cannot tell you how many people that I've worked with recently that skipped step 1 through 5, and they found a shiny new piece of technology. They didn't do any of this stuff in 1 through 5. They weren't intentional about 1 through 5. They just said, there's supposedly this piece of software that can automate everything in my life, and I've seen a demo and it's super cool. And whether it's a Notion or Lead Simple or what, it doesn't matter what the technology is. They buy the technology to solve a problem that they have, and it doesn't do it because it's not built on the first 5.
This goes back to a previous topic. Is I think technology companies are really good at marketing, and they know how to play at the heartstrings and get us to emotionally buy that it's going to solve
Yeah.
this problem. And yeah, you got to have these other 5 things in place before we get to this stage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, whether it's and not to pick on any one software vendor, because they're all great softwares if you bring them in step 6, not
Mhm.
step 1. And a lot of people are bringing them in step 1. So whether it's Lead Simple, Process Street, Aptly, Monday.com, they all serve a purpose at the right time. But so many people figure out, I need this equipment, and then they never roll it out properly because it's just not, they don't have the rest of the foundation to build that on. So let's assume that we've done step 1 through 6 now. We've got the right equipment to support the players in the right positions. They each have their own playbook. They know what plays to execute. Those plays are built on the rule book, and the rule book, all of those feed into and built on the game plan. Here's where we start solving the issue where you talked about somebody not performing. We got to keep score. That's number 7. We got to have a scoreboard. And the scoreboard are our KPIs and our OKRs. And for those that aren't familiar with those terms, KPI is a key performance indicator. OKR is objectives and key results. And they both play a part in keeping score. but you can't play a game without knowing how each person is measuring up. So you've got scores and stats, and they're both important.
Yeah, I love that. You go back to the game, right? That's what I love about business. It's a game. Whether
Mhm.
it's a strategy game like chess or a team sport, which if you want to scale and be successful, it is a team sport, not chess. But the strategy can be chess. But it's a game, and we move people, and we change positions, and we develop new processes, systems, and institute new technologies to play that game. So we can be
Mhm.
better at it, right? And that's the beauty of it, right? There's no perfect team. Heck, most teams suck, but there's a few championship teams, and they figured out really these 7 key points that you've lined out today to be champions, right?
Yep.
And it's hard to be a two-peat
Yeah.
like the Chiefs just did.
Oh, don't say that. I got to spit.
All
Jeez. Yeah.
right.
So I could go on this for hours. I know we've got a couple of other topics we wanted to pack in. I also know that we have a time situation where we're looking at.
All right, let's shift gears real quick then. We'll go to our leadership one-on-one. Obviously, I'm a huge believer in one-on-ones. 15-minute increments, 15 to 20 minutes is really the goal on a weekly basis, is the best cadence that I have found. And then I expect my leaders in the company to have one-on-one with their team members as well, right? We need to hear from our staff. We need to hear feedback, and we need to, really to build a relationship beyond just the business side of things. I think is really important. But a conversation I recently had in a one-on-one was with one of our pod leaders, in Bind, and I was trying to help her coach with an underperforming team member that she had, and I had to bring up the Peter principle, because everything she was describing was exactly that. And if you're not familiar with the Peter principle, the way I've always summarized it is, if you're only as good as your own level of incompetence. That's how I've always described it. But if you went and Googled it, it actually says it's the idea that people will be promoted up to a point where they are no longer qualified, leaving a company full of incompetent employees. As you all know, like we've had this mistake. Somebody in the company is the best technician, right? They are phenomenal at being a property manager, a leasing agent, whatever the case may be. And therefore, they are the one to promote, right? They've got to be the one that we've got to promote up because they're great at doing the job, right? And in fact, that's not always the case. And I would say most cases, they are not the right one to promote up until they've had some kind of leadership training, leadership experience on how to actually manage people. It's totally different
Yeah.
from managing yourself in your role and doing your job than it is to actually manage others. And so, anyway, I was coaching up this team leader of mine to help her understand that that's what we're facing right now. Right? We have a Peter principle happening, and that happens with all of us. Right? We're only as good as our own incompetence. But I wanted to bring that up. Tony, what's your thoughts? I mean, you could probably think of 1,000 scenarios here too, but it was just funny to be
No,
a recent experience.
I think it's very applicable because you want to reward good people. You want to reward people in your company. You want to give them a career path. But I mean, think about this. If you have your star running back, you don't promote them to quarterback because they're such a good running back. It's a different role. Now, if they went and got training and went to training camps and all of that to become a quarterback, like you said, now they've got some training. Maybe they're a good fit. Maybe not,
Yep.
but at least we've given them the tools and resources. We've given them the equipment that they need to be able to be successful. But most people don't do that. Most people will take somebody that's in sales Or let's maybe another example is in maintenance. I'm really good at being a maintenance coordinator, so I get promoted to being a maintenance supervisor. Well, the stuff I was really good at, I no longer get to do, and now I have to be good at managing people who are now new in that role. So they're probably not doing the job as good as I was because they're new and I had experience. And now I'm doing a job that I don't really know how to correct them because I didn't get the training to help them improve and get better. And so I agree that we just need to be intentional about providing that career path, but giving people the tools and resources to be successful. Because I mean, think about it. If you were really thinking about it when you promoted them, if you had an employee that worked for you for 3 years and you promote them to a new position, they're a new employee and that's their day one again.
Yep.
Right? They may have some experience, but it'd just be like if you hired somebody from another property management company. They have some experience, but they don't know how you do it here and what's expected and how to actually go about doing it. So whenever you do promote, they're a new employee, it's back at day one, and you are going to have that level of incompetence. Hopefully they can grow through it, and you're not stuck with a company full of incompetent people.
Yeah, you don't want to lose a good technician just because you promoted them, you know.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, cool. We'll have to get to the next one. Why is it so hard to run a property management company in our next recording? So cheers, Tony.
All right, buddy.
All right.
Thanks for listening. We'll be back next time to cut through the noise of what it really takes to be a successful entrepreneur.
If today's episode hit home, share it with a friend. And be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next one.